Hello everyone, I'm Adam with CLNotes, and in this, the third and final video of the three-video series for the University of British Columbia's Forestry Department, I'm going to show how we can use the interactive actions from the last video to create some really amazing customized activities or tests, assessments, things like that for our students. And you can see here that since last time, originally as a teacher with the glossary and everything, we had selected somewhere around the neighborhood of 16 or 17 words, but now it says 26 key terms here, and that's because we also have some student words as well. Now, the greatest thing about this program is that it allows us to create customized activities and tests for every individual student in the classroom based on how they interacted with the original text. So again, taking a look at the text here, we can see that for myself as the teacher, I've highlighted all the glossary words in green, and then some of the words that I wanted them to know more about in yellow. And then the ones in blue are ones that the students have selected. And when different students highlight different words, of course, they'll have different colors. And so you might have this page with 10, 15, maybe even more different colors on it as an instructor, and you can kind of see it's almost like heat mapping. You can kind of see the areas where students are perhaps having the most trouble understanding some of the terms and so on and so forth. But let's go back to our main class page. Now let's say the students did a reading for homework, or maybe they did some reading collaboratively in class, and I'd like to give them some kind of fun activity to review the key terms and concepts in the class. What I'm going to do is click on this resource here, and I'm going to go up to the plus sign here that says New Activity. And you see we have a whole bunch of activities. So for example, if the students are going to have a unit test, I could create a set of flashcards for them. Or I could make a crossword puzzle game, which automatically creates an entire crossword puzzle based on what the teacher and the students have interacted with in the program. It could be a closed test, and I could use this for an actual assessment if I like. For example, I could make a test where it'll actually have the progress of the students, so I could get an actual grade. And this grade, if you're using Canvas, could be automatically exported right to Canvas. In the same way as activity progress could be exported to Canvas too, just for participation marks or however you like to do your class. Let's just make a crossword puzzle because I love to play games to review vocabulary words if I can, and flashcards are useful as well. They're another cool thing. There's also a vocabulary bank here, which uh, allows students to go through and print off entire lists of the stuff that they learned with definitions and create nice little pages they can print out for people who like paper and pen. Although you can actually print out all of the activities on CLNotes. So if students are they're more tactile, they like to touch things, they like to have pen and paper feel, then they can just print things out as well. So what we'll do here is I'm going to click on the crossword puzzle here, and it says here the teacher's selection. So these are the vocabulary words that I selected. So these are the terms that you probably want your students to know for the upcoming test or whatever, what have you. But then the cool thing here is the student's own selection. And what this does is it will add the words of each student to an activity. And when you create an activity, for example, you say crossword for forestry unit 1, and you click create, it's going to create a different activity for every student in your class based on how they interacted with the reading. So what I mean by that is, for example, the student that I showed you the example of in video 2 would get a crossword puzzle with the teacher's words and also the words that they had personally selected. Another student would receive a crossword puzzle that's shaped differently with, for example, their words and the teacher's words, but theirs will look completely different from another student's who may have chosen different words. Let's create this activity. So we'll click Create Activity. It says it's been successfully created. I'm going to click OK, and it'll show me an example. This is what just the teacher's words looks like, for example. But of course, we have ones with the students' words. And also you can see here that depending on how or what language the students looked up the word in, they might get a different language of definition here, which is kind of cool. So if they did it all in Chinese, they would get all Chinese. If they did it in English, they would get, for example, some different languages. This one, of course, is because in one of the previous videos, I had actually chosen the Chinese dictionary and I selected this. So this is, of course, one of the teacher's selected words. But let's take a look at some of these words here. Now, it's going to be very difficult because I'm not extremely fluent in the nomenclature of forestry here. So for example, if you want to do one of these things here, so for example, 5 across or something, or 5 down, you would click on it and you would have to put in the word here. Now, the stem exclusion stage is typified by low levels of something vegetation. The definition, understory, is the noun. Well, now this is something that's very interesting and something that we can deal with later if the forestry department decides to create the glossary. But that is what happens is typically CLNotes is designed to blank out the original word, but of course the word has a different spelling here. And I think the spelling that we used in the glossary was without an E. But if you're doing a quiz or something and you have the definition here, CLNotes would usually automatically blank out that word so you can't see it. However, of course, with the Spanish, sometimes the Spanish and French are quite similar. And just from me knowing French, I know sous étage means understory. So I'm going to type in understory here, and you get a little check mark. You see here, if it's not completed properly, you do not get a check mark. So you have to complete it, get a check mark, press confirm, and there you go. It fills this in. Now, as students are doing the activities, so for example, what I'll do here is I'll go back to my class, and I'm going to go to my activity manager. Now, activities, unlike readings, need to be manually assigned to the class. So the readings, once you import it, it's immediately available for your class, but the activities are a little bit different here. So let's take a look. The forestry crossword, I'm going to click to assign it. Now, I just assigned it to 5 kind of demo students I have in my class, but I'm just, of course, using one of them on my laptop here. In this crossword, I'm going to try to complete a word here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to click on activity progress in my main screen. And let's see if we can see, and you can see here that the progress is automatically updated. We can see how the student, aka me, is progressing in this crossword puzzle. So fortunately, I got an easy one in the crossword puzzle here for the student. I got canopy. And if I take a look here, and when the progress refreshes, there we go. Look at that. So the progress just shot up, and it showed me that this student has completed 3.8% of this activity. So we have a live progress view here where we can see what students are doing. So if it's a test, we could see exactly like how students are progressing in a test. And if it's an activity, we can see if they're doing the activity, if they complete the activity. So if this is homework, you just have to quickly go to activity progress. It'll list all the activities and it'll show you the progress that each student is making in that activity as well. So as a teacher, again, this is great because this also can be implemented together with Canvas so that the progress can be just exported directly into the gradebook in Canvas. Let's go back and take a look at some of the other activities that we can make in CLNotes here. So it's still selected. Let's click New Activity again. We can take a look at the gap filling game, which is basically a closed test. And I'll change the title here to about closed test. And maybe this is going to be your unit test. And again, very simple. You can imagine how much time this is saving you from having to manually make your own tests. You do this, and one test is made for each student individually. Just click. And I'm done. I didn't have to do anything extra. I just press OK. Now, of course, this is again based on the teacher's words, but every student in the class is going to get their own closed test here. And once again, I'll go through here. Let's take a look. Even-aged forest. So actually, this one, again, is an example of what I just told you about a moment ago. about how CLNotes usually hides some words. But this one, of course, the definition is a little bit different because the definition, oops, let's go back. The definition is without a hyphen, so it didn't get blanked out. So this is just something you have to be aware of as you're making activities as a teacher. So even-aged, yes, so that's the correct answer. And just like before, if we go back to our class and we go to Activity Manager, and of course the activities, we have to look through the different activities here. So we have crossword puzzles here. Let's click on the gap filling game, and let's assign this one as well. And for myself, because I'm also the student here, I'm going to open up this gap filling game from the student view, and we'll go back to the activity progress as a teacher. And you can see here that, again, this is a different category. So we have the crossword puzzle, and here's the gap filling game. And the student will have to go through and they'll get, of course, they'll have a completely different test that they have to do. So each student in the class will get their own set of words in this test. And I just got the first test question here. I just typed in the answer. I'm going to submit the answer here from the student's view. And fortunately, the test question was the same question as the one that was on the teacher's one. So that's just a random little bit of luck there. And you can see here, it's going to refresh in just a moment, and it'll show us how much progress the student has made. There we go. So I just finished it, and it shows that I've completed 3.8% of the entire activity. And again, as the students continue progressing through the activity as a teacher, in real time, you can see the progress. So again, whether this is homework or this is something you just get the students to do in class, either way, it's just very useful. Let's go back again to course materials, and I'll show you the other things too. So just some other things, very simply, we can make flashcards, because I know a lot of students, I am used to using a lot of flashcards, and I know a lot of students make their own flashcards. This just automatically can make flashcards. Students just click on it, and they can just check it. They can also click on got it. They can mark a word as something they can remember. So if they go through the entire list and they remember it, as they remember each card, they can click they got it, which means that word is kind of marked as something they don't need to really worry about. And then, of course, if they forget the word, they can go back and unmark it. They can also click on listen, so they can listen to the entire sentence. So if they're, again, like ESL learners, or if they're more into kind of audio modes, they can click on this.
Stand development over time if conducted periodically on the same site. Tree density, species composition, crown class distinctions in live crown.
So you see here, it just opens up everything to really a nice multimodal approach in the classroom. And the last thing that I didn't show you here, and there are a few other activities too, but for example, listening and speaking is one where, again, actually this might be something that would be useful for some of the ESL students in the class. So for example, listening, speaking. And if you create something like this activity allows students to listen to some of the words. And please ignore just this stuff at the top of the page here. So this is something that I can see now. We just need to clear this up. But typically it looks like this when you first open it. And what you do, I think what this is maybe from one of the words that might have kind of a weird link or something like that built into it. So we'll have to look into that. But typically the sentences look like this. So the students can see the sentences and they can practice their pronunciation. And that's also a big thing as well. So if students are participating in collaborative discussions and things like that, they'll want to be able to pronounce things properly so they can listen to it. And they can also, if they have a microphone connected, they can actually speak and record the sentence and check to see if their pronunciation is correct. So this is just very, very useful. Again, like you just listen to it.
Tree density, species composition, crown class distinctions and live crown ratios are all interwoven, and their relationships evolve over time to paint a picture of stand development.
Right, and then they can click speak. But of course, I don't have a microphone. Well, I do have a microphone right now that I'm using to record. Well, let's see if that works. tree density, species composition, crown class distinctions, and live crown ratios are all interwoven, and their relationships evolve over time to paint a picture of stand development. So you can see here that perhaps I didn't pronounce this part quite clearly, but you can also see, like, for example, things that I didn't pronounce very well, or things that I didn't pronounce very clearly kind of show up here, and it shows how accurate you were in pronouncing this. So again, this is more of a useful tool for perhaps ESL speakers or people who want to improve their pronunciation of some words in forestry. And again, in forestry, we have quite a few students from other countries, so this could be quite a useful feature for them to practice up their pronunciation. And finally, of course, we have the vocabulary bank. And this is, like I was describing earlier, very simple, something that students can just print out if they want. I'm just going to write in the title vocabulary bank and create it. And what this will do is create this page. It's a printable page that has the words and the definitions. So if students want to make their own physical flashcards, they can do this as well. They can also use this and just print it out. And it's very convenient. You can click print here and it will print it as a PDF like this, you can see. And it's just it's just nice to have. I know some students like to have this on paper so they can feel it and they can study it and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we can make activities and do a whole bunch of things with the interactions that happened on CLNotes. So this is, again, this project just finished most of its development, and we're always continuing developing stuff. So the other thing is, if there are other features that the forestry department wants, for example, maybe they want some other types of tests or assessments, or maybe some other ways to interact with videos, or some other ways to interact with some of the other resources, or anything like that, of course, they can get in touch with us. Right now, the most important thing is we're looking for some instructors to help pilot CLNotes. So if you're willing to come out and pilot it for example, like the spring semester coming up here, I'd be very happy to import all of the materials and get your class prepared for you in CLNotes or on Canvas there through CLNotes. And I could help you basically set everything up so that you can try it out with your students. And if all things go well, collaborative learning notes will be implemented cross-campus sometime at the end of next year, which will be absolutely amazing because I'm sure you can see how this can be very useful, both for students and for professors, just saving professors time, but also allowing them to really connect more with their students and also be that much more on top of the learning that's happening within their classrooms. And also, you can imagine with this program, I showed sort of the teacher approach, but something else that you can consider is that students can do the same kind of thing. So, for example, if you want to do student centered activities, perhaps you want students to find some TED Talks, or you want students to investigate the most recent research or happenings in the field of forestry, you can get them to create CLNotes and get those students to create activities and highlight vocabulary and make definitions and maybe use that together with another project to continue developing the forestry Wikipedia and all of that kind of stuff. You know, it's very limitless. Like, you can use this as a platform just to continue expanding upon the already amazing resources the forestry department has. In any case, I hope that this has been helpful, and I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you over at UBC's forestry. And as always, I'm Adam with CLNotes, and remember, with CLNotes, you can learn more effectively and teach more efficiently. And have a great day. Bye-bye.